Minnesota's Attorney General says there was no evidence of race in the death of George Floyd. We have an update on Ma'Khia Bryant's death, with Black Lives Matter releasing a statement saying another life has been stolen. We also have law enforcement mocking LeBron James, and Doocy confronts Jen Psaki. And I have a lot to say about that. Before we get into our lead story today, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really does help the YouTube algorithm push my video out there to viewers who have not seen my content or my channel. And if you enjoy the Bald Brad Show, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, but also the bell notification button, so you're notified whenever we go live, which is every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for our lead story of the day, it comes from our friends over at Blaze Media. It is written by the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, you said it, Phil Shiver, and he titles it, Minnesota AG admits there is no evidence that race was a factor in George Floyd killing. And we had been saying that as conservatives for a very long time. When the evidence came out, we all said this has nothing to do with race. But did Black Lives Matter or the left say that? Of course not. They said it has everything to do with race. They said Derek Chauvin was a racist. They said anybody that thinks that Derek Chauvin should be acquitted is a racist as well. So if you hold a certain viewpoint, and that viewpoint has nothing to do with race, you are somehow a racist, and that's how the left's thinking works. And if you're going to ask me, how does that come out? How does that formula work? I don't know. I have no idea. But somehow the left makes sense of this stuff, and it's actually really intriguing, because I love to figure out how people's minds work, how they tick. And the left, I just can't figure it out. We talk about it a lot on the show, about the time of reflection that I have off camera, trying to read books from leftists. And it's truly baffling how they come from point A to point C, or go from point A to point C, without ever acknowledging point B, which would change C. But, you know, we're not going to get into that, because I like being happy. Phil starts off saying, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison acknowledged during an interview with CBS 60 Minutes Sunday that there is no evidence race was a motivating factor in the killing of George Floyd. Again, it doesn't even matter if he's coming out and saying this, to be quite honest. It matters zilch, nada, nothing. Why? Because Black Lives Matter have an agenda. The media have an agenda. The Democrats have an agenda. The left have an agenda. They have a narrative. They have an ideology that they want to push, that America is an evil, racist, systemically racist country, and that we must knock everything down from the top all the way down, restructure everything so that it's not racist. So by him saying this, it doesn't matter. Do you think the Black Lives Matter are going to say the stuff that he's saying? Do you think they're going to support Keith Ellison? They're going to say the guy's crazy. They're going to call him a bunch of names maybe. They're not going to go with what he says. They're going to say the guy's clueless. Like, what the hell does he know? Stuff like that. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong, because I would love for Black Lives Matter to say, hey, look, you know what? We were wrong. This isn't racially motivated. Derek Chauvin isn't a racist. He did something probably he shouldn't have done, you know, yada, 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 whatever it is. But for them to push that the man was racist and, you know, completely ignore what the Minnesota Attorney General is saying, a black man, by the way, or an African-American or a person of color, I guess we're supposed to call everybody nowadays, is saying there's no evidence of racism. We should probably go with that, because why? There was no evidence of racism. And by the way, it's not just taking this man's word for it. Just because he's an attorney general of Minnesota doesn't mean that we go, oh, you know what? It's his word. That's the final line, you know, said and done. Is that if you watch the trial and you see the evidence, there was no motivating factor. There was no intent of racism, if that's what you want to call it, utilizing intent. But there was just no evidence of it, so that's what we have to go with. If there is evidence that arises in some way, shape, or form that shows Derek Chauvin is a racist, then yes, we can all stand together. And the left makes it seem like the right has an issue with not calling out racists or something like that. We don't like racists. We think racism's evil. We're all in agreement of that. That's the weird thing. But our situation on the right is we don't just go out and willy-nilly call anybody racist. We like to have evidence first of that racism. We're not just going to be the ones to decide whether you're racist. You're going to decide on yourself if you're racist by your actions and by what you say. And again, I'm using the conjunction of the two. I think somebody can say something racist without actually being racist themselves, having racist racist actions, completely racist thoughts, thinking their race is supreme over another race. You could say something racist, again, without being racist, but not according to the left. If you say something racist, you're automatically racist. Your entire life and the entire formulation of what your life entailed in the past, the present, and the future is racist. So there's no way around it, right? With the left, you're constantly stuck in a bubble in their mind. And again, it doesn't matter if you yourself know you're not racist. It's the left, Antifa, that get to decide whether you're racist or not. And we're going to throw Black Lives Matter in with the group of the left and Antifa that are dictating whether you're a racist or not. It goes on. The progressive attorney general made the stunning admission when fielding a question from interviewer Scott Pelley on why the prosecution didn't pursue a hate crime charge against former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who knelt on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes during an arrest last May. He says, "I wouldn't call it that because hate crimes are crimes where there's explicit motive and a bias," Ellison said. "We don't have any evidence that Chauvin factored in George Floyd's race as he did what he did." So at least somebody's thinking logically. At least somebody's looking at evidence going, look, there wasn't anything to prove that this guy was racist or this was racially motivated, that he knelt on the guy's neck for 9 minutes because the guy was a person of color or an African American or a black guy. So kudos to that guy. "You could have charged him with a hate crime under Minnesota law, and you chose not to," Pelley reiterated. "Could have," Ellison responded, "but we'd only charge those crimes that we had evidence that we could put in front of a jury to prove. If we had a witness that told us that Derek Chauvin made a racial reference, we might have charged him with a hate crime, but I would have needed a witness to say that on the stand. We didn't have it, so we didn't do it." It goes on to say, last week, Chauvin was pronounced guilty by a 12-person jury of murder and manslaughter for his role in Floyd's death. And it goes on to say there was video and things like that. It goes on here to say, "To anyone following the case and its subsequent coverage in the media, Floyd's killing seemed only to be primarily about racial bias, which is what makes Ellison's admission so shocking." And this is what I said at the beginning of the video. That was the narrative that the left pushes and still consistently pushes. And even after this article, even after Ellison talked about it, saying it wasn't racially motivated, they're going to still push it. It doesn't matter, guys. You could have somebody on the left say, hey, you know what, this person's not racist. And the left goes, well, screw you. We still think he's racist. So that's where I'm getting at with all this. The whole world sees this as a white officer killing a black man because he is black. And you're telling me that there's no evidence to support that, Pelley asked. So there you have it. It's this person. I want to reread this because this is important, because this shows the thinking that some just can't get past, meaning the left, the leftist media, the mainstream media, not all the mainstream media, but definitely a lot of the left and Democrats, they just can't get past in their thinking. And it's a very important statement to highlight. So let's read this again. The whole world sees this as a white officer killing a black man because he is black. And you're telling me that there's no evidence to support that. So you have Pelley here just saying, well, just because there was a white officer and a black man died, that there has to be racism just because of the matter of a white and a black. But when a black officer shoots a black man, or excuse me, when a black officer shoots a white man, then there's no racism in that. So the logic just doesn't work, right? It automatically falls apart instantly. And also you see the thinking that's behind them is automatically they're already placing race into the equation as if there should be some sort of variable that should equate to race being the lead cause or one of the leading causes of his death, which it wasn't. There's no evidence of it. And that's what the guy keeps trying to tell them, but they can't move past it. They can't move past the idea that the amount of melanin in each one of their skins, meaning Derek Chauvin's skin and then George Floyd's skin, was different. And because that amount of melanin in each other's skins had to somehow have a chemical reaction with your cognitive mind that resulted in the action of Derek Chauvin placing his knee upon George Floyd's neck. Haven't seen the evidence of that. I haven't even seen a study of that, by the way. We talked about that, I think, in yesterday's episode or the day before. But that's how the left thinks. And it's so mind-blowing how addicted they are to race. And I was thinking about that today, which is why I wanted to make sure I utilize that term addicted in our episode today. Because it's not that they just like it. It's not just that they care about it. They are addicted to race, anything, racial identity, anything that has to do with race. they are addicted to, because it's already pre-built into the equation. And this is something, again, that me and Arthur Kwan Lee talked about in that special episode. If you haven't checked that out, it's a special episode on its side. You can go to the playlist under special episodes. It's there. Great conversation with Arthur Kwan Lee. But it's already pre-built into the equation. It's already pre-built into the cake. And when it's already pre-built, you can't take it out. It's already there. And that's their thinking. And that's why you can't remove that idea from them. And that's why they keep pushing on it, because for them, it's there and it can't be removed. In response, Ellison argued that while there was no specific evidence of racial bias in this particular case, systemic racism was obviously at work. There's no evidence to prove that. There's no evidence to prove that systemic racism is at work. So you have this guy that is saying, look, there was no evidence of race to show that that was what caused Derek Chauvin to place his knee upon George Floyd's neck, and that's why he died. But then he's contradicting himself, saying, look, well, there is evidence of systemic racism. I'm not going to say what that evidence is, because he doesn't have any evidence of systemic racism on how and why George Floyd passed. The guy was high. There's even video of one of the officers going, hey, like, you're foaming out your mouth. You on something? And of course George Floyd was on something. The guy took 3 times the legal lethal limit. The guy was high as a kite, man. So come on, man. So he was definitely stopped for a purpose and a reason. Now, that doesn't mean he should have passed. That doesn't mean doesn't mean Derek Chauvin should have put his knee on George Floyd's neck or anything of the sort. But the contradiction that you're going to say here, in response, Ellison argued that while there's no specific evidence of racial bias in a particular case, systemic racism was obviously at work. In our society, there is a social norm that killing certain kinds of people is more tolerable than other kinds of people. That's your opinion. That is strictly your opinion. That's not evidence. That's purely meaning evidence is something that's not, you can't disprove it necessarily. Where you can disprove by going and asking a bunch of other people, hey, do you think that stuff is racially motivated? Do you think people are just out there killing unarmed black men just willy-nilly and it's tolerable? I don't know anybody. I don't know a single person. Now it's anecdotal, but I haven't seen the news say, hey, it was a good idea that the police officer stayed on that guy's neck for 9 minutes. That was a really great idea. Does anybody, all of you, our viewers, has any of you ever talked to anybody in your life? We have almost 1,000 subscribers. Now, not all 1,000 people watch this show at a time, but let me know. That's a good sample right there. About 1,000 people letting me know, hey, you know what? Do you agree with Derek Chauvin's putting his knee on his neck? I guarantee you the vast majority are going to say no. You probably have some knucklehead out there that thinks it's okay. But for you to sit there and say in our society, there's a social norm that killing certain kinds of people is more tolerable than other kinds of people, And you don't support it, by the way, with any statistical data. You don't support it with any study or survey. You're just out there with your own thinking in your own mind. But, we can't talk about that, because if you talk about that, it's considered racist. And by the way, I don't know if Ellison is definitely a person of color. I don't know if he's an African-American man, though. I might have mentioned he was before. I don't know. By the color of his skin, I can't really tell. He is definitely very tan. He could be, I don't know, maybe Hispanic or something. I'm not good with identifying races, but just wanted to clear that up for anybody that goes psycho on me. In order for us to stop and pay serious attention to this case and be outraged by it, it's not necessary that Derek Chauvin had a specific racial intent to harm George Floyd, he continued. The fact is, we know that though housing patterns, through employment, through wealth, through a whole range of other things, so often people of color, black people, end up with harsh treatment with law enforcement. Other folks doing the exact same thing just don't. And again, he doesn't provide that with any data. That's the mind-blowing thing. He just says things and doesn't provide any data behind it. Now, the other day, I was talking about unarmed black men not being shot. And so I did an entire episode on the statistics of it. Entire episodes on how that's just completely baffling wrong. And also, I explained how it is wrong. So it's not that I'm just one out here saying my thoughts and everything like that. I say things to keep the video rolling without statistical evidence? Absolutely. So somebody could say, well, Brad, that's a little bit of hypocrisy coming on your end. Yeah, in part, but I also do cover those statistics in other videos. And also, there's times where maybe I'm doing a video and I don't talk about the statistics, but I just talk about the idea of it. But in a past video, I've talked about the statistics. I don't want to keep repeating the statistics over and over and over again for the viewer. It gets kind of boring, and you guys tend to know the statistics after I've already talked about them. But, maybe that's something I should do, is just constantly reiterate the statistics on it. But there you have it. You have the Minnesota AG admitting there's no evidence that race was a factor in George Floyd killing, but is going to push that America is systemically racist, even though he's an attorney general of Minnesota, even though we've had a black president, we've had a black attorney general, we've had a black, pretty much everything. So black UN ambassador. It's like black attorney. I already said a black attorney general. We have black mayors, black senators, black congressmen, black congresswomen. I mean, it's everywhere. So it's just the whole systemic racism. Like I said, Barack Obama thinks there's systemic racism, but somehow he became president of the United States. And doesn't talk about how he beat the system, by the way. Doesn't give out a detailed explanation of this is what I did. This is how I beat the system. If you do this, people of color, then you can beat the system as well. Nowhere in his memoir does it talk about that. Nowhere does he list that stuff out. Now, if you beat the system that's supposedly racist and is just completely grinding against black men and just out there to get them, and there's no way that they can rise up and actually be successful in life, don't you think that if you're the one that actually became successful and became president of the United States, that is probably some really important information to let the other people of color know so they can beat out the system as well? Also, Eric Holder, attorney general for Obama. If you made it to attorney general, you are pretty darn successful. How'd you do it, man? I'm sure a lot of people would love to know. What about the UN ambassador? Maybe you can detail a step-to-step list or step-by-step list for everybody out there to see how they could beat the system. What about any senator out there that's a person of color? Do you want to list out how you became a senator and what somebody else can do to become successful, a step-by-step guide? But you don't have that because systemic racism doesn't exist in this country. There's no law on the books out there stopping black men or people of color, or actually anybody in this country from being at least successful. If anything, if you want to talk about something that's racist, let's talk about affirmative action, stopping Asian people from getting into certain colleges or universities because, you know, they have a different skin color or a different ethnicity than, say, African American people of color. We talked about Harvard and Yale already. So we already talked about that in yesterday's episode and the episode before that, I believe. But we can't talk about those things because Asian people are doing well in this country. They're not being victimized, folks. See, that's the new thing in the last 20 years is you want to be a victim in this country because if you're a victim, somehow it's a plus. I only think it's a negative. You should not want to be a victim. You should want to be somebody that's helping victims. You should want to be somebody that's taking care of other people. Excuse me. But in other news, this comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire. If you're not already a member of the Daily Wire, please go over and become a subscriber today. It says here by Ian Hayworth, Ma'Khia Bryant's life mattered. Black Lives Matter releases statement saying another black life stolen. So you're going to want to check this out. And I'm not laughing at her passing away. I think it's actually terrible. Again, all lives matter, not just Black Lives Matter. On Friday, the Black Lives Matter movement released a statement following the death of 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant, who was shot and killed in Columbus, Ohio by a police officer as she appeared to stab another teenage girl. The Black Lives Matter movement also provided a link to their Twitter account where they posted a thread of TikTok videos seemingly posted by Ma'Khia Bryant. Ma'Khia Bryant, we say her name, another black life stolen, but we refuse to define or remember Ma'Khia by her final moments. Black Lives Matter tweeted, we uplift, celebrate, and honor this black child for what she loved, doing her hair, making TikToks, having fun, just being a teen, rest in power. I don't know what that means, Queen. So rest in power, Queen. I don't know what that means, rest in power. I'm trying to figure it out, but I get what they're saying about we refuse to define her by her final moments, but her final moments show the type of person she is. Now, you got to be really far off. You got to really be far off to go and try and stab somebody in the neck or head and try and kill them. Meaning there has to be something really wrong with you. So there's nothing normal about this. Of course, you can highlight her doing her hair or TikTok videos, but still, her final moments dictate a lot about who she is. You tried to kill somebody, man. It's not like she kicked somebody. It's not like she accidentally rear-ended a car or she accidentally maybe got in a fist fight or a bar fight or something because she was drunk or under the influence. As far as I know, the evidence that's been provided, she wasn't on drugs. She wasn't drunk. There was nothing manipulating her mind. And she tried to commit homicide. She tried to murder somebody. A normal person wouldn't do that. Now, I get that she probably had good moments in her life. And yeah, we should acknowledge those good moments. But the whole purpose of us bringing up the fact that she deserved to be shot was because she tried to kill somebody. So Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter if somebody tried to kill somebody, folks. It doesn't matter if they're a criminal. It doesn't matter any of that, okay? Like I've stated, this is the left's thinking, and I've talked about this in other episodes. What the left's thinking is this. If you're a criminal, you're a hero. If you're actually a hero like that police officer was, you're a criminal. That's how the left's thinking works. It's ass backwards. If you're a hero, you should be a hero. If you're a criminal, I'm sorry, you're a criminal. Just because you had a good life doesn't mean that we're going to highlight all those things when you tried to kill somebody or did kill somebody. In this case, obviously she didn't kill him, but I want to make a point here and have an analogy and a connection that you have these people that go out and kill 4, 5, 6, 10 people. At some point in their life, they did good things. At some point, they probably took care of a family member. At some point, they probably did something good that you could highlight, but they went out and killed a bunch of people. So they are bad. Right? They're batshit crazy. There's something wrong with them. If you had a teenage guy, it doesn't even matter. You could put any scenario with any race, with any age. It doesn't matter. If you go out and you kill somebody, I'm sure at some point in that person's life, in the span of their entire, I don't know, maybe let's say the person was 30, 0 to 30. At some point, I'm sure that person did something good. They've had to have. So are we just going to highlight those good things, but we're not going to talk about the fact that they just freaking killed somebody? So that's the left's thinking. It's truly mind-blowing. My thing is, why can't both be true at the same time? Why don't you highlight, yeah, she did some good things, but hey, over here, he freaking tried to stab somebody in the neck. Like Sam Kinison, when he's screaming. I don't want to do it in the mic. It's too loud. But you know what I mean? It's so silly, and it's sad the tragedy that happened with it. But again, when you try to kill somebody, you forfeit your right to life and you're going to get shot. So maybe it's a good life lesson for a lot of people to look at the video and say, hey, I probably shouldn't try to stab somebody. And I definitely shouldn't try to stab somebody when there's a cop around because I'm probably going to get shot. Now, again, you shouldn't stab somebody either. And the fact that you have to tell people that you shouldn't stab somebody, doesn't that imply that there's probably a problem with how she was raised? Don't you think there's probably a problem with who she's hanging out with? Don't you think there's a problem with maybe how her parents raised her? Like, the fact that you can't blame anybody here other than the police officer is truly mind-blowing. And it's the same thing for a lot of things with the left. You can't blame the individual. You have to blame the system here. Okay? The system, you want to know what the system is? It's America. We can't be specific on it. We could just say, well, the system caused it. The system caused her to take out that knife and try to stab that person. The system did it, guys. Now, who in the system caused her to do that? We can't say. What system, what individual, what organization? We don't know, right? That's what the left does. They generalize things and they have no intention of being specific so that we can at least eradicate the problem and solve it. But they don't want to do that because they have no intention of solving this stuff. They believe some weird stuff, but they have no intention of fixing it because they're capitalizing on it, guys. And that's exactly why one of the leaders or founders of the Black Lives Matter movement bought like 3 or 4 houses. And some of them were under the corporation that she's buying these houses. So, there's a clear capitalization of them capitalizing off this race stuff, this race baiting stuff, saying, look, a white police officer killed a black man, there must be racism. And if there's not racism or evidence of we're going to say it's systemic racism. No evidence of that? Well, it's just the system. I don't have to provide evidence. And if you make me provide evidence, then you're racist too. See how this stuff works? It's like talking to a 5-year-old. And it's just at some point, you just don't have the conversation anymore because there's no logic or reasoning behind these people. They don't have the wherewithal to think, hey, I could be wrong. And it's so funny in stats. I was actually just talking about that today. We were talking about 99% confidence intervals, and it goes from 90. You could throw 95 in there. You could throw 99. And I was saying, hey, you know what? There's always room and probability for probably you having some sort of error in your thinking, and that it's good to at least walk around with that idea of like, hey, you know what? This is what it is, but I could be wrong. Maybe I made a wrong calculation. Maybe I made an error. Maybe I was thinking wrong just for that day. Maybe I slipped up in my thinking. I need to go fix it. You should always be walking around that you have some sort of possibility of error in what your thinking is. That way you leave open the possibility of your mind being changed. But the left does not think that way. They're the end all be all. They decide everything, and they don't have to be specific. They don't have to give you statistics. They don't have to do anything other than the fact, shout there's racism out there, and that's it. That's it. But when you say that there's no racism out there, what do they ask you for? Evidence. What do they ask you for? Statistics. And you know what? When you give them the statistics to prove there's no racism, somehow there's still racism. Why? Because any disparity in statistics for the left shows racism. Any disparity, literally any. And you know who does this? You know who talks about this really, really well? There's actually a book on it. I would say it's worth all the money in the world. Read Thomas Sowell's Disparities. I believe it's Disparities or Discrimination. It's either Disparities and Discrimination or Discrimination and Disparities. I have it in my closet or in my bookshelf outside. But read it, Thomas Sowell. It's a black cover. I believe Discrimination or Disparities is in black. Either way, look it up. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal book, and it talks about disparities and how the left constantly look at these disparities as racism when there's disparities all throughout the globe. There's different statistics based on certain things, and you can't always attribute it to race, but that's what the left does. And it is so frustrating because you're trying to help these people formulate the correct opinion based on the study, and they just can't do it. There's no hope. So it's nuts here, but there you have it. Black Lives Matter continues to push this agenda. They're not saying that this person was wrong for what they did. You haven't seen a statement like that, have you? Hey, Ma'Khia Bryant shouldn't have tried to stab somebody. This was wrong. And she got shot for it. They're great on the police officer for saving another black person's life. You don't see anything like that, right? It's so silly. It's so silly. But something that's not silly and something that I love, that's happening here. And this came out today. I believe it came out today. But this comes also from the Daily Wire. It's from the Daily Wire News. And it's police officers mock LeBron after he targeted a cop who saved black girl from being stabbed. And so this is in connection to the Ma'Khia Bryant, the officer that shot. And LeBron James posted a picture of him saying that he's next and that hashtag accountability because an NBA star that, makes millions and I think maybe even worth $1 billion is somehow being victimized by the system of racism, and he's not successful in life, and somehow he was held down, and yada yada yada. I know a bunch of bullshit that doesn't make sense. But LeBron James here, police officers began responding last week to the Los Angeles Lakers' LeBron James targeting a police officer on social media by mocking the NBA star in TikTok videos. The videos come after James posted a photograph to Twitter last week of a police officer in Ohio that shot and killed a black girl who was attempting to stab another black girl. James wrote, "Your next accountability," hashtag accountability. James also included an emoji of an hourglass signifying that time is running out. After intense backlash, James deleted the tweet in less than 2 hours. Did he apologize for it? Nope. Nate Sylvester, an officer with the Marshal's office in Bellevue, Idaho, took mocking James to another level in TikTok video that has recently drawn 2.5 million views so far. Good for him, man. Good for him. And I don't know if you guys know this, I'm a huge advocate for police officers. I'm a huge advocate for law enforcement. My grandfather was a CHP. My father was a CHP. I didn't carry on that tradition. You want to know why I didn't become a cop? And I actually talk about this with my friends a lot, is early on, about all the way up through middle school, I wanted to be a police officer. I even did presentations on how I wanted to be police officers. A lot of my toys were cop cars. My family was police officers. You want to know why I didn't become a cop? Because my father told me not to become a cop. He said people hate police officers. And this was like 25 years ago he was telling me this. Can you imagine today if I actually became a police officer? And that's nothing against cops. I love them. I want to help them. I'm trying to even think of ways that I can create maybe a GoFundMe for police officers that are put in a tough situation or something like that. I would like to think of some way here that I could start a movement for police officers and support them, because they shouldn't have to be going through this type of crap. Because what the left want to do is completely not just destroy America, but they want to destroy the ones that are protecting and serving our localities, which is these great, fine men and women of law enforcement. Again, I have a lot of friends that are law enforcement. Whatever you guys need, man, email me. My email is down there. If you guys need gift cards or something like that to get donuts for, it's very stereotypical, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean? If you guys need like gift cards, maybe I could raise money to get you guys gift cards. You can go out there and get the precinct some food, some coffee. If you guys, want to reach out, I'm in Southern California. If you need me to drive 30 miles and get you a darn cup of coffee so you know someone's not going to spit in it, let me know. Guys, I will do this for you. This is how much I really do care. So emails down below. If you're law enforcement anyway, I can support you. I will try my best to support you. I know it seems silly, like, oh man, we're not going to make you drive 30 miles to get a cup of coffee. But you get what I'm saying. It's something so small to me is that important. So obviously the big things are very important to me. But the whole purpose of me mentioning that is I want to help you guys, and you guys got a lot of support out there. You got a lot more support than you think. There's conservatives out there that are just too scared to speak up, out of fear of losing their jobs, out of fear of being hated, out of fear of being called a racist. But I want to speak on behalf of those people and let you know that we care about you, we love you, and we thank you. Please make sure that you police everything, arrest those that are committing crimes, because you're keeping us safe, and we rely on you to keep us safe. But if you can't do it, we understand. We got the Second Amendment, and we'll protect ourselves. At the same time, we'll protect you when and wherever we can. But you have here the video of a police officer calling LeBron James for advice in her viral video. Let's watch this. This is too good.
Dispatch, I've arrived at that disturbance. Will you have LeBron call my cell phone right away, please? Thank you. Excuse me, sir.
Sir.
Excuse me. No, can you put the knife down, please, sir? Sir, no, sir, don't stab it. No, stop stabbing. Stop. Oh, hold on. Hold on, it's LeBron. LeBron, hey, yeah, it's me again. Listen, I'm out here at this disturbance call, and there's a guy trying to stab another guy with a knife. What do you think I should do? Why does that matter? Okay, well, they're both black. One guy's trying to stab another guy with a knife. Deadly force is completely justified. Uh-huh. I see.
This is so good.
So you don't care if a black person kills another black person, but you do care if a white cop kills a black person, even if he's doing it to save the life of another black person? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but then again, you are really good at basketball, so I guess I'll take your word for it. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks, LeBron. Michael Jordan's the GOAT. What? Nothing. I gotta go. Sorry, guys. You're on your own. Good luck.
Excuse me. I was trying so hard. I'm probably turning red. I was trying so hard to keep it in. That is gold. That is gold. You know what? It's the perfect situation too. The reason why it's so funny is not only is he mocking him because LeBron James is an absolute idiot and everybody knows so. The guy needs to stick with basketball because the only thing he could do is put a ball in a hoop because he has no intelligence whatsoever going on in that brain. But this is the situation we were all thinking of. He's acting out everything that a lot of Americans were thinking of, you know what, if you see somebody stabbing him, maybe they should just call LeBron James for advice and do it. So, you know what, good on him. I love this stuff, and more police officers need to do this. They need to mock idiots out there that know nothing about the job. They know nothing about law enforcement. They're there just to bash on law enforcement, not actually help them and support them for the bullshit they have to go through every single day. Can you imagine every single day dealing with the public, dealing with those that are committing rape, those that are drug abusing, those that are beating the shit out of their wife, or their wife beating the crap out of their husband? Can you imagine all the stuff these guys see day in, day out, 8 to 12 freaking hours a day, pulling people over, people treating them maliciously? Now, are there officers that do the same thing? Yes, but again, you know, we've talked about this in the past. Are there officers that are on edge and kind of rude? Yeah, because they deal with this crap all day, and you have to understand that when finally they walk up on a citizen and the citizen's polite to them, it's probably confusing because they don't deal with too many of those people, because people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions, and all they do is lie to police officers. So you can't blame them for the mentality. And thank God some of them still have a humor. Matter of fact, a lot of them have a humor. So I shouldn't say thank God. That was a misstatement on my part, because a lot of them do have a humor. But I do know a lot of police officers that are kind of roughneck guys that don't laugh too much. But it makes sense to me. It just makes sense. They've been in the job for years. Some of them are about to retire that I know. Some of them are retired. And you know what? After retirement, they actually turned into ones that just laugh all the time. They're not in the bullshit every single day. Forgive me for cussing. I need to do better on this. I say that every episode. But do you know what I'm saying? Is so if you do get pulled over, or if something does happen, you know, treat them with respect. You know what I mean? Maybe, and I'm not saying do this, but I think a good idea that I want to start doing is keeping maybe a Starbucks gift card in my wallet. So if I do encounter a cop, maybe I could just give them the gift card and say, hey, you know what, this one's on me. Or, you know, something like that. Something where we can help these guys out. They're going through a lot. They're retiring in mass droves now. And, you know, with this Floyd bill that might get passed, I was talking to an officer, and I think you're going to see a lot of guys quitting. More like you're going to see a mass exodus of police officers if this George Floyd bill gets passed, guys, where it basically is impacting the immunity of a police officer. And once you do that, there's too much risk involved once you get rid of that. Meaning the cost ratio, the risk to reward ratio is what I'm trying to get at, is just too high. It's not worth that as a career, because all it takes is one instant to where you're doing something that gets caught on camera, even though you didn't mean to, or it's a good shoot, but you get something happens to you, you go away for whatever, you get some sort of trial on you, your completely life is uprooted. I don't have a great instance, but forgive me in talking about that aspect of it. But what I'm trying to get at is the idea that the cost and reward is just not there, because the amount of encounters you're dealing with and the type of people you're dealing with, it's only a matter of time before you have to throw a guy on the ground. It's only a matter of time before you might get in a fist fight. It's only a matter of time where maybe you have to draw your gun and shoot somebody, God forbid. But you get what I'm saying? It's just there's too much cost, and if they don't have some sort of immunity or some sort of system that helps them, and it's just not worth it. And you can't blame them for leaving. And you know what? You're going to see a mass exodus of police officers. You're going to see a mass exodus if that bill passes the law. So with that being said, we have police officers mocking LeBron James after he targeted a cop who saved black girl from being stabbed. Hey, and you know what? Clap offering to the police officer that shot Ma'Khia Bryant for saving another person's life. Good on you. You did a great job. And by the way, the first time I saw that video, I never saw the knife. So that guy reacted in real time. The training on that guy, and by the way, the amount of shots he got off that hit that person under the adrenaline, under the stress, well done to that police officer. Now, again, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, good, hooray, that person was shot and killed. That's not what I'm trying to say. But that officer saved someone's life, and good on him for doing that. He did his job. He did everything he was supposed to do, and we should acknowledge that a police officer is not just out there to save his own life, but he's out there to save the lives of others, which is why it's called protect and serve. And he's protecting another person from another person, and that is the jobs of the police officers. Now, with that being said, we have more news here, and a lot of you seem to like this, where I basically pick apart Jen Psaki's press conferences. Some people think my laughter's fake. None of this is fake. This is me being real. Everything I put on camera is real. I'm not hiding a single thing here. But I don't know. Some people are sort of silly in my mind. But we have Jen Psaki here being confronted by Peter Doocy. Now, the one video that I did on this actually has a lot of views. I think it's my second most watched video, a few thousand views. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this and kind of do a real-time reaction of Jen Psaki being a knucklehead here. I haven't seen it, so I hope it's good, because I don't want to record this and then it not be good. But let's go ahead and play it.
Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you,
And
Jen.
congratulations. And not to embarrass you, you got married.
I did, yes.
Well,
Thank
congratulations.
you very much.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
So it has to be a little bit awkward, right? She says to Peter Doocy, obviously, like, hey, you got married, congratulations. That's a really good thing for her to do. And it shows a different side of her, right? She's not just always... I'm trying to be polite. She's not always an idiot, right? She's not always stupid. She's not always sassy. She's not always talking down to them. And I think you see this different side of some of the press secretaries every now and then, as well as the press, where they're human beings. They're treating each other with respect. And in a way, they're colleagues, right? They're all in there together. They're all trying to do a job. They're all trying to support their family. At the end of the day, they are trying to do the right thing. Now, does Jen Psaki always say and do the right thing? No, she doesn't. And I've always been outspoken, and we've talked about this on the show, is her job is hard. Her job is to make bad things look good. She's there to spin stories. She's there to create narratives. She's there to make whatever the headline is today a different headline. So I fully understand her job, and I fully get it. But that doesn't mean she's good at it, and that doesn't mean she can't get better answers here. But you also can't blame her too, because her boss is Joe Biden. So how is she going to have a conversation with a guy that doesn't know who she is? Do you know what I mean? And you see the stuff this guy fumbles with. And so you almost feel bad for her at times, because there's just, you're trying to get around her job and figure out how she's able to do it efficiently with that type of boss. But I don't think you can.
First, Vice President Harris says that she's not gone to the border yet because we have to deal with COVID issues. What is she referring to?
Well, I would certainly have to ask her team about that.
Well, I got no fucking idea. Oh, God, that's pretty much what she said, right? Without saying it, because she has to be PG. Don't have a clue, Peter. I got to speak to them about it. Actually, what's happening at the border? We don't have a clue. Is something bad happening? God. Oh, it's too good. We're only 22 seconds in.
Specifically, but I would tell you also that her focus is not on the border.
Her focus is not on the border? Oh, well, at least we get a clear answer, and it makes sense why things are chaotic there. It makes sense why there's a crisis. It's because her focus isn't on the border, guys. It's not on closing the door. If you had a bunch of criminals, I should say a bunch of criminals, if you had a bunch of people, strangers coming into your house, and you can't think about closing the front door, or building a front door, or building walls so people aren't coming on your property, or building fences, or whatever you want to call it, you got to at least go down there and evaluate the situation, see where wall needs to be built, and at least take the border wall seriously. But hey, at least we get a clear answer here. And this is why you have 2 million people projected to come in by the end of the year. This is why you have 19,000 unaccompanied migrant children crossing the border. Again, unaccompanied, or at least if they are being unaccompanied, they're coming over freaking with coyotes, violent gang members, the drug cartel, all these smugglers, right? All these people are sending these other people over. They're making a $1 billion business infrastructure, basically, and Joe Biden's sitting there supporting it. But at least we get a response from Jen Psaki, so this is looking really damn good. I'm curious to see if Doocy's going to follow up on this.
It's on addressing the root causes in the Northern Triangle. And that's why the majority of her time has been spent on working with, on a diplomatic level. She is going to have a bilateral meeting with the president of Guatemala this afternoon. She's going to speak with the president of Mexico next week. And she's working with them to ensure there are systems put in place to reduce the amount of migration coming from these countries, but also to address the root causes. And that
address the root causes of other countries so people aren't migrating here, because you having a conversation, she's making it seem like it's a big deal. You notice that? Oh, well, she's going to talk with the president of Guatemala and Mexico. Ooh, big deal. Big deal, guys. And she's going to talk to him. Hey, can you please kind of build in some systems and policies that will stop people mass immigrating from your country or exiting your country into ours? Like, a conversation diplomatically is going to work. Has it ever worked? And my thing is that we need to focus on what's on our side of the border by building a nice, beautiful border wall, like Trump said. At least he started building it. And she's looking at other people's countries to fix the problems, which, yes, that should be done. But we can fix the problem on our end. It's very simple. You build the wall. It will stop a lot of people. You start deporting a ton of people. That's well worth the tax money there. Put them on a plane. Boom. Over. Or get them in buses, boom, back over, right? And if you have a wall, heck, you don't even got to travel far. Just right around the corner. Just wrap that corner. Just drop them off right there. Or just have a nice little door. You can just single file line people through, guard that door, and you're good. Do you know what I mean? Just a matter of a few yards. And they're in, they're out. Kabing, bada boom, done.
That's really what the president's asked her to do.
Then I guess, if not...
By the way, at no point did she address the whole COVID thing. Right? That was Peter Doocy's question, was about COVID. just no comment on it, right? Nothing. Yep. Just not going to answer it.
With regard to her specific statement, is there a White House concern when you guys are planning presidential or vice presidential travel, but more about COVID at the border than other places that she has traveled recently?
We certainly know that the number of people who are in facilities, the reason we have been so focused on expediting moving kids out of these Border Patrol facilities.
Moving them out of the border facilities and just letting them loose into the country. And by the way, it's not just children, Peter. Let me explain this a little bit more, because I think you're getting a little confused here. I don't think we're being clear enough for you, Peter. It's not just children we're letting into the country. We're letting adults here, okay? About 15,000 aren't going to have court dates, Peter, and we're just going to let them loose. Some of them could have COVID. We're testing them. Who's testing anymore? Joe Biden cured that, man. What are you talking about? Oh, Peter, you get married, you leave a little bit, and you come back and you're asking silly questions. Jesus, man. What a time to be alive. You know what I mean? I say this all the time. I think people get put off when I'm laughing. You have to find this stuff funny. Is it serious? Yes, I mention that all the time. It is serious. But it's also hilarious because this person is up there speaking on behalf of the president and says knucklehead things.
This is because we want to reduce the public health impact in these facilities and get them into...
Reduce the public health impact when you're jamming 400 people into pods that only hold like 200, 250. What do you mean? What the hell do you mean? Or if this is what you mean, you're finally waking up to the fact that you can't stuff enough people into the pods. There's just not enough room. You don't have the money to build more facilities. So they're packed in there so hard to where you just have to let people, it's going to burst open, right? If they don't do fences, it's just a bunch of plastic up there. So they're probably just warping the plastic because there's so many bodies in one area to where you have to let them loose. You don't have any more room. What are you going to do with all these people?
Spaces where we can do social distancing and when we can ensure these kids have access to health, health and medical experts and educational resources. So that's certainly, and we've made some progress on that front, even over the last few weeks since you got married, I will say, on that exact issue. So look, but if a president or a vice president goes down and visits a facility like this, you have to potentially clear some parts out. There's a lot of security that comes. Our focus here is on
you have to clear some parts out. There's a lot of security that comes. Why? Why do you need all that? They're all good people in there, right? They all want a better life. Why would they harm Kamala Harris? Why do you need security down there? That's weird, right? Why would you need that? Because we all know that there's violent criminals in there. We all know there's MS-13 gang members. We all know that there's people in there that shouldn't be in there that are trying to harm Americans that are coming through the U.S.-Mexico border. We all know. And it's so weird, right? You need to clear out people. Why? Why do you need to clear out anybody? I'm being a little facetious here, as you can see, but you're coming up with these excuses as to why Kamala Harris can't make a trip down to the border. Now, let me just give you kind of perspective on why it's so important to go down to the border. Now, do I think she needs to go down there to solve the problem? Absolutely not. I don't think anybody needs to go down there to solve the problem because we have enough intelligence, right, that can come back to Washington and they can look at it and stuff like that. The whole reason she needs to go down there is for two reasons. One is the optics of it to show that she actually cares. And two, it is good for you to go down there and get basically boots on the ground and look at the area and kind of see what you're dealing with and the magnitude of it. It would be like this. If you had massive issues at a manufacturing plant and all this was getting back to the CEO, and could he fix it from his office? Yeah. But it just looks good if he goes down there, looks at the problem, kind of takes a peek under the hood, evaluates it, and then goes, hey, you know what? This is how we need to fix it, and kind of telling everybody around. You're building morale. You're helping the Border Patrol see that there's a lot of issues going on, and you're there to support them. So there's a lot of good that comes out of her going down there as one that's called the border czar and is supposed to solve the problem. So again, there's a lot of good for her to head down there. And I want to be clear, I don't think that she has to go down there to solve the problem, but I think the PR optics of it, of going down there and looking again at it and seeing what you could fix and seeing all the people you're cramming into these pods, because it's pretty bad.
On solutions, on making progress, on moving these kids out of these facilities, on getting them connected with sponsor homes, with family members if possible, and that's really where the president's focus is at this point in time.
By the way, at no point, if you saw her speak there, did she actually give solutions of stopping these people from coming into the country. So basically, Joe Biden's, all his mindset, if he has that, is on just the people coming in and then dealing with the problem when they're here. It's not trying to stop the problem where it's at. It's, hey, we got a problem and we're going to just deal with it as they come. We're not going to shut it off, right? It'd be like somebody coming in through the front door that's not supposed to be their complete stranger. And so rather than you building the front door, making sure the locks are on it, making sure it's all secure, you're just keeping the door open, and then as the person comes in that's not supposed to be in your home, you're just calling the cops every time without trying to fix the problem. You're just going to wait till they walk through that front door and do whatever the heck they are to your house or whatever it is, your family, and then you call the cops. That's what Joe Biden's doing. He's waiting until they come across the border, and then he's handling it here rather than locking up the front door. I'm not talking about not letting people in, right? Legal immigrants. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about building the border wall so that people, you guys know what I mean, building the border wall so they can't illegally come into this country. You need to block that front door. You need to create a barrier so you're not having a mass exodus from one country into another country. But they don't have any solutions for this, guys, and it's what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for months to hear solutions here, and they don't have anything. So I asked another video, Jonas, I know that you comment all the time. Me and you, I think, are projecting somewhere around September she'll maybe make a trip, or who knows at this point, brother? Who knows? And you guys, just to show you, Jonas is somebody that comments a lot. You're not going to find his name necessarily in the comments. He goes by a different name. But I read all the comments. I know your names pretty darn well because I see a lot of you coming in, like Kitten and stuff like that. I see an Iron. I see a lot of the same people, so I know who you are. I don't know your face, but I really appreciate your comments. You guys crack me up. You say funny things. I really do appreciate your viewership. So keep leaving those comments, guys. I love having conversation with you. Even though if I'm short with you, I got a lot of people that I want to read and get to and make sure that everybody deserves a comment and a reply. So I really do appreciate it, but I remember a lot of you, even if I don't say, hey, thanks for coming again in the comments. I know who you guys are. I have a pretty darn good memory.
Those facilities, there was a report in the last couple of days in the New York Post that every migrant child being brought to a shelter is being given a copy of her children's book, Superheroes Are Everywhere. Do you know why that is and if she is making any money off of that?
Of the president, of the vice president?
President's book, yeah.
I'd have to check with our Health and Human Services team if you're talking about if they go to shelters or if they go to...
Yeah, in the welcome kit, apparently, there's a copy of her 2019 children's book, Superheroes Are Everywhere.
I'd have to certainly check on that. Here it's a good book.
And then...
You hear it's a good book. And look, if she's donating these books, I don't have an issue with that. I think it's great that you're giving these kids and you're donating something to these kids without having it being put on the taxpayer. You're donating your books to these children so they have something to read. I'm all for that. I got nothing against that. I haven't read the book myself, so I don't know if it's some sort of like equity, social justice thing. I don't know. And frankly, I don't really care. But if the taxpayers are paying for this and then insto facto, she's basically making bank off of it because it's part of their welcoming package, which I don't know why you're giving a welcoming package. Just like you came in here illegally, you committed a crime basically, and you're just I think that's what he's talking about. Hopefully I'm not misconstruing this. I hope he's not talking about legal immigrants getting a welcoming package. And if they are getting a welcoming package, I haven't formulated an opinion on that. I don't know if I'm for or against that because that's the cost of more money to the taxpayer. Like, you should just be thankful coming into this country, the greatest country that's ever been created. I think that's a big enough welcoming package, don't you think? The fact that you could sit there and if you make good decisions, you're going to be freaking rich in this country, richer than anywhere else in the world, probably. I think it's a pretty damn good welcoming package of you becoming a U.S. citizen. You don't need a freaking book to do it, especially a book from the vice president that Jen Psaki says is supposed to be good. But look, if it's at the expense of the taxpayer giving a welcoming package, I'm not for it. There's my opinion. Not for it. I don't think, again, that anybody should be getting a welcoming package at the expense of the taxpayer. We should be taking that money and putting it elsewhere. There's bigger needs out there than a freaking gift basket.
And then I've got one more. Why was President Biden the only world leader at the climate summit Zoom who was wearing a mask?
Because he is sending a message to the world that he is...
Oh, God. Excuse me, I'm developing a cough, but oh my God. Because he's developing a message to the world? I don't know. Even she thinks it's batshit crazy. Oh, God. Oh my God. Can you fathom her actually giving that reaction in real life? I can't believe we just saw that. She doesn't have a clue why the guy was wearing a mask either on a Zoom call. No other world leaders on the globe was wearing a mask, and Joe Biden was the only guy wearing a mask. Do you not think that looks a little ridiculous? Do you not think the guy looks like an idiot? God. His own press secretary. You can tell by her she doesn't know. She didn't get nothing from Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't know why he had a mask on. Joe Biden didn't even know where he was. Joe Biden was saying some weird stuff, and that's for another video, but Joe Biden was saying some weird stuff during that, and people are like, what are you talking about, man? Like, let my wife go. Like, let my wife free with stuff he was just shouting during this with the world leaders. This is the guy that represents our country. Oh, God, that was so damn good. That was totally worth the wait. Okay, let's continue.
Putting in place precautions and continuing to do that as leader of the United States. And I don't know what setups they all had in their countries that may warrant some more reporting or not. But obviously he had a pool there for portions. There were additional staff there, additional personnel, and that's the sort of model that we try to keep ourselves to here.
It doesn't matter. Whoever's around the president, you bet your ass they're vaccinated. So he didn't need a mask on. We all know he's vaccinated. Everybody in the White House is vaccinated. They were vaccinated way before we were vaccinated. So this whole aspect of like this BS stuff of like, oh, well, he's just trying to send a message, blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a press pool here and there's a pool of people here, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. They're all vaccinated. It doesn't matter. But they're trying to push this whole thing. Again, like COVID's deadly. I can't go on with this because YouTube will remove the video. But you know what I'm saying, right? You know exactly what I'm saying. It's just a bunch of stuff that they're trying to push here. And it's all optics.
I know the CDC's website and their guidance is that you can gather indoors with fully vaccinated people without wearing a mask or staying 6 feet apart.
That's actually for in your private home. So it's not workplace guidance. And we still wear masks around here, just like you are all wearing masks. And we wear masks in our offices and continue to abide by that until that guidance changes.
Now, Peter Doocy doesn't follow up here on the CDC saying that it's only for basically at home, that if everybody's vaccinated, you know, then they can be a certain amount of distance, blah, blah, blah. They can all be together, kumbaya. Well, it doesn't make sense because if you're all vaccinated, that's the whole purpose, right? That's why you're allowed to be with one another, is because you're all vaccinated. Everybody in that White House is vaccinated. So what's the difference? That's what my follow-up question would be. What's the difference from my entire family being vaccinated and not having a mask on compared to me working here where everybody's been vaccinated way before the general public has been vaccinated? So why do we all have to continually wear masks? It doesn't make sense to me. Furthermore, why is the president and everybody else around him that have been vaccinated, you know, you're constantly being monitored, you're constantly being checked, you know, why are they wearing masks? You know, follow-up questions like that. I wish you would have done that. You know, maybe he thought it was a lost cause, or he's only allowed a certain limit of questions, or, you know, whatever. I love Peter Doocy. I love his questioning. I love what he does. So I'm not going to hit too hard on this. If he continues this kind of charade of not kind of doing tough follow-ups with it, then I'll kind of hit it home a little bit more with him. But I do like how Peter Doocy asks questions. He does have good follow-ups too. So this is the first time where I've seen him kind of not really push the issue on it. So there you have it. There's Jen Psaki. It was worth the wait. It was worth it seeing her have that reaction about the masks, because it was baffling to me. I'm sure it's baffling to all of you as to why our president, again, I'm saying our president because he's mine too. I'm not like one of those Democrats who go, not my president, Trump's not my president. You know, all childish stuff. Yes, Joe Biden is our president. Even though I didn't vote for him, he's still my president. And the guy's a knucklehead for wearing a mask on a Zoom call. It's like those people that are driving around in their cars, and I hope none of you are one of these, but if you are, that's fine. Whatever, no judgment, sort of. But if you're one of those people driving around in your car by yourself and you're wearing your mask, it's a little silly. You know what I mean? Or like you're walking around in open air and there's nobody like in the vicinity, like 100+ yards around you, and you're wearing your mask. To me, it's silly. There's nobody around you. I mean, I've seen pictures of people hiking by themselves and they're in the middle of freaking nowhere taking selfies and they're wearing a mask. But anywho, there you have it, folks. We have the Minnesota Attorney General admitting there is no evidence that race was a factor in George Floyd killing. Ma'Khia Bryant's life mattered. Black Lives Matter released statement saying another Black life stolen. It wasn't stolen. She gave it up. She forfeited when she tried to stab somebody in the neck. Police officers mock LeBron James after he targeted cop who saved black girl from being stabbed. I hope they come out with more videos like this. Mock the hell out of him because the guy's an idiot. And lastly, we have Peter Doocy confronting Jen Psaki over Biden wearing a mask on a Zoom call with world leaders. And folks, that is all the news I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bald Brad Show. Again, please take a moment right now to hit that like button. It really does a lot help the YouTube algorithm push my video out there to other viewers. And also, if you enjoy the Bald Brad Show, please make sure you subscribe to my channel and also hit that bell notification so you're notified whenever we go live. Again, we upload a video every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, full episodes. We do want to try to get more interviews for special episodes on the weekend. If you missed that episode, that long form podcast with Arthur Quan Lee, make sure you check that out in the playlist or search for it in my video catalogs. And lastly, please share this video all over social media, your Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, wherever it is. And lastly, you know, something I'm finding really helpful is one of Arthur Quan Lee's viewers actually wrote on my channel saying, hey, you should interview Arthur Quan Lee. And that sparked me to look him up. If you guys see other conservatives like Ben Shapiro, Jesse Lee Peterson, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, you know, Officer Tatum, ABL, all these guys, if you see them, write in their channel, you should interview Bald Brad and put my channel link in there for me and help me kind of advertise out there. I can use your help. Again, I work I work a few jobs. I'm not just a full-time teacher, but I'm also a professional ice hockey referee. I also do this, and I also have another YouTube channel that's monetized that does like little small projects here and there. It's not a big channel or anything, but I could use your guys' help on a lot of this, of helping us grow here so we can get conservative thought out there to the rest of the world. And of course, I will still try to do everything on my end, but it's me asking you for your help on publishing my videos out there on social media, and also writing on other people's comment pages saying, hey, can you interview Bald Brad or have him as a guest on your show? And that way we can grow together and we can help one another here, and I'd greatly appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for your loyalty to the Bald Brad Show. Thank you for your comments, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show.